Pandemonium Reigns.
The 2024 Auburn Tigers. What are these guys actually capable of doing? What is their ceiling? What's their floor? Can it get worse? Can it get better? We're going to talk about it. They're fresh off of their A-Day game, which they need to find a new name for because I believe Bama does the exact same thing. Get creative, do something else. But we're going to talk about it. All things 2024 Auburn Tigers. I will say this, just to kind of get us going into this thing. If I'm an Auburn fan, which, you know what? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if I'm an Auburn fan, which I'm close to it, just because we hate the same people, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of Auburn football. I'm excited about Hugh Freeze at the helm. The guy knows what he's doing. I'm excited about the coaching staff changes. You bring in a defense coordinator and DJ Durkin. I think that's really noteworthy. But there's some things to talk about here. There's some highs that I think that they are capable of, and there's some lows, obviously, that the 2023 season showed us. But let's get into it. How you doing, man? Everything well on your end?
Doing swell on my end. How about yours, my man?
Well, my eyes are not burning. It's about that time for the eclipse. I don't think I could care less. Jesus is not coming back. Read your Bibles, people. So other than that, man, I'm good. I'm ready to talk Auburn. I'm ready, really ready to talk Auburn. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, these, we've done Clemson. We're going to do some more. We're doing Auburn today. Oh, man, these are good, and they're so bad because now I'm just ready to watch Auburn. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm ready to watch Tennessee. I'm ready for that week 1, week 0. I don't care if it's 70-0 at halftime because the game sucks so bad. I'm ready for it. Give it to me. But we're gonna hold ourselves over with this for now, and should be a juicy look in on Auburn.
Absolutely. And you know what? For some teams, it's a whole restart. Even for a program like Tennessee, we have a new QB1 under center, so there's a bit of a reset. I think it would be an injustice to Auburn if you didn't look at what took place in 2023 and you domino that into 2024 and what you can potentially expect out of these guys. I don't know if it works the same way for, a program like Tennessee. I think Alabama is in a similar boat that Auburn is, or excuse me, that Tennessee is, in the sense that it's kind of like a reset. It's kind of like a restart. But Peyton Thorne's back. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Don't really know. We're going to talk about it, though. I do know this. Here's what I do know. The Tigers have now had 3 straight losing seasons for the first time in nearly 50 years. I would take that. It's been a rough 2 decades for those balls. I would take that. I would take that.
Yes, sir.
So the portal, as we continue to get into this, the portal took more than it gave. Gone are names such as Donovan Kaufman and Robbie Ashford, who surprised both of us, noting that Robbie Ashford is now a Carolina Gamecock. Jair Shorter, who they were really excited about coming into the 23 season, he is already back out.
Yeah.
Tyler Fromm, Jake Fromm's little brother. And then you got a bunch of other guys who were depth for them are gone. And they have 15 gone, 9 back in that the portal gave to them. And I believe your words in that department were there's nothing really noteworthy.
Correct. That's at least my take, not being a scout, not watching the games of players from the likes of Maryland and Georgia State. They've got a couple of SEC within inner SEC transfers. They took a corner from Alabama, but none of these guys jump off the page at you. I don't think these are the most coveted guys, but as you know, as we all, I'm going to hate on Dabo again just for a moment. As everybody but him knows, this is how you supplement, you build, you provide depth for your roster. Those guys will certainly do that. I think I mentioned it, but all 3- and 4-star prospects are these guys coming out of either JUCO or high school prior to landing in Auburn this cycle. A good point, like you just mentioned, Jair Shorter. I was actually thinking that I thought he was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. I don't believe that's the case, though. So, there's no huge massive names. Obviously, I'm confusing Shorter with someone else, but absolutely would trust a guy like Hugh Freeze when he takes his pick of the litter versus maybe what his hand was dealt coming in, more so a year prior, a year earlier into his process there. I like the idea of Hugh taking his pick of the litter, what he can get, robbing Alabama here, Mississippi State there, guys that will absolutely make plays for them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So speaking of, the 2023 season for them was, what would you call that? A circus? I mean, not really. If people were betting weekly on Auburn, they're probably pissed off because you never really knew what was going to unfold surrounding them. So
circus up and down. It was an Auburn season is what it was. It's what they do at times when they're not at their best is they kind of ride this roller coaster. And I mean, they ride it into the mountaintops some weeks, and then it goes like beneath the earth is how low that thing traverses sometimes. And It was a heck of a ride, man. I know we're going to talk about their games last year as we get into this year's, but what a weird season, a weird, perfectly Auburn season that was.
I'm going to assume that you haven't looked at the numbers, and I'm going to throw a little trivia out here. True or false? Auburn was statistically the worst offense in the conference.
I have to say false there.
Only 162 passing yards per game. Are you sure?
Vanderbilt plays in this conference, bro.
Vanderbilt was the worst offense in the conference, followed by Arkansas, followed by Mississippi State, followed by Kentucky, and then Auburn, which surprised me because Auburn is the only school in the conference who, no, forgive me wrong, Arkansas 187, Mississippi State 181, but still 162 passing yards per game for the Auburn Tigers. And you know what?
And I'm not sure you saw it, but I was hating on Kentucky there for a minute. That's just you can't do that at this point of the process. Mark Stoops taking transfers like Devin Leary, receivers that you want to talk about. I can't wait to do Kentucky's version of this episode. But yeah, I mean, 168 is atrocious. And I think, I'm not going to jump the gun yet. I think there are obvious Peyton Thorne and receiver room issues that gelled into that, right?
It has to be. Yeah.
It's not one guy. It's not Peyton Thorne's fault because he did some things, mostly showing athleticism, showing his wheels, either that Hugh Freeze liked more than the Michigan State liked or that he didn't have to do, up north. It might have been so cold in East Lansing that he would have broken bones in his body if he took some of those hits and, from running. But
he was handing off
it's not all on one guy. He was also doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's not all in one guy. This is where I especially like, Hugh Freeze, man, having his opportunity to bring in a Cam Coleman that we're going to get to bring in some portal. A couple of these non-transfers coming in are receivers. They probably could have taken as many as 4 or 5 with just how bad that pass game, that unit was. When I think we talked about it before we hit go. Rivaldo Fairweather, was he the leading receiver? Rivaldo.
He was a tight end.
Tight end. You don't want a tight end even pushing to be your leading receiver. I'm looking at you, Clemson. We just talked about you. We didn't really get into that much. That's not something you want, even if you have Brock Bowers on your team. You don't want your tight end leading your team in receiving.
Right.
I don't care. If it's a freak situation, he goes bananas, sure. But on the average, that's not what you want. That's not a recipe.
Right. No, I'm with you. What I do think you're going to see a shift in is I think you're going to see less circus. I think you're going to see less of losing to the teams that you should not be losing to and then taking playoff teams down to the wire. I think it's a whole different look. So just for example, you had was it New Mexico or New Mexico State? I believe it was New Mexico State who you lost to.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly at home. And it wasn't like it was a week 1 Tennessee, Georgia State. It was week 12, week 13, right before the Iron Bowl. But then, the regular season also held a 7-point loss to Georgia, a 7-point loss to Ole Miss, and you should have beat Bama. You should have beat Bama.
Absolutely.
They needed a miracle. The miracle. That was a fumble of words, but you know what I'm saying. So I think those days are going to be over. I think you're going to see a massive jump in production. I think you're going to see Auburn playing faster offensively and defensively. I think you're most notably going to see it on the quarterback position because after the A-Day game, I think, and even listening to Hugh Freeze, this sounds like it's Peyton Thorne's job to lose, which that is a different thought that I had last week. I thought it was more up in the air, but it sounds like, according to Freeze, sounds like it's his to lose. He's got the hold of it. He now has a spring underneath his belt, and Freeze loves these RPOs. He's RPO heavy, and I thought what you saw. I didn't watch the game live. I watched the highlights, but I thought what you saw out of Peyton Thorne is going through progressions. When the first RPO read wasn't there, he took a check down rather than taking off. So I think you're going to see them playing faster, most notably QB1, Peyton Thorne. So I'm excited for that in terms of Auburn goes. I think you're going to see that passing yards per game number has to go up.
Has to.
It
50
will
yards a game more.
Right? I'm not saying like it has to win. I'm saying like it has to. It naturally, organically, it's just going to go up. Barring no radical injuries or anything like that. I think they looked really good on the offensive line front. I think they're really solid there. I thought their defensive front looked really well, and I think that's what Auburn fans were really concerned with, if I'm understanding this right. Obviously, I'm not totally in the know on all things Auburn, but nonetheless, let's get into the schedule, man. And actually, sorry. One more thing on before we get into this. You now have Cam Coleman on the outside, who's only 17 years old at the moment. By the way,
oh my
he
gosh,
hasn't even turned 18 yet. Dude is a freak. And here's what I wanted to point out regarding that. Regarding Saturday, he was 4 catches, 92 yards. Okay. And a score. He was responsible for their own score. And they didn't do a traditional, Navy versus Orange or something like that. They did an offense versus defense situation, and the defense began with 27 points, and there was a last-second field goal for the offense in order to win that. So spring games are weird, depending on how you look at it. You can walk away optimistic. You can walk away going, oh, crap. It's not like Tyler Bray throwing 5 interceptions in 2012, whatever.
Yep.
So my point in 4 catches for 92 yards in Cam Coleman is that's his first collegiate look in front of the fan. And you go 4 catches, 92 yards. So I don't think the stage is going to be too big for him. And you now have a weapon outside of Rivaldo Fairweather. And at 92 yards alone, that's more than half of what you averaged per game last year. So, and on top of that, Peyton Thorne was 9 for 13 for 133, a passing touchdown, 4 rushes, 20 yards. Their quarterback room is deep. I'm not going to get into all those statistics, but what I also want to point out before we get into 24 is here's where I think the defensive line or the defensive front really showed out. Damari Alston, 6 rushes, 21 yards. Jeremiah Cobb, 6 rushes, 12 yards. Justin Jones, 5 rushes, 5 yards. Burnett, 1 rush, 3 yards. Hunter, 4 rushes, no yards. Brian Battie, 1 rush, -1. They were all over the run. Is that an offensive line problem? Is that great defensive play? I really admire the offensive line for these guys. So I'm going to attribute this to the defensive front. We'll see, though. Again, I don't know that spring game tells you all that much, but if you're Auburn, you're looking at Cam Coleman and just salivating.
Precisely. I wanted to come back to him before we got into the schedule for this year, started making predictions and things like that as well. 6'3", 188 is what he's listed at. He's a consensus 5-star out of Phoenix City, right? If he's 5'3", you're taking him if you get the chance to because you got to pursue that guy. 6'3", 188, man. I'm not saying he's as big and thick as some of those receivers, or at least the high-end receivers that Hugh had at Ole Miss, but that height, that ability to possibly go up and get it, the speed that he's going to just, genetically possess at 6'3", 188, not being too big yet. That's a good frame to build on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude, I mean, this screams to me, and I know he's not the size of Luther Burden or anything like that. I think Burden's he's obviously an inside guy, but you got one that you can go to. You've got one that you know you can go to. You've got, and we're about to get into it. You've got Alabama A&M. You got California. You got New Mexico, and then you got Arkansas to ramp him up against. That's a perfect progression because you start out with a. I'm not trying to be mean. You start out with an easy game. You bring in Cal, where you're at least getting Power 5 at home. It's a step up regardless. It's someone in a different jersey than your own defense.
Yep.
You take a step back down for homecoming with New Mexico, and thank God it's not New Mexico State. Yeah. Jokes aside, getting them in, and then you get them in the SEC game against Arkansas, who's searching for way more answers than Auburn's searching for right now after a big letdown last year. And then, of course, the gauntlet will come into play. You'll get into the meat of the schedule that we're about to talk about.
Yep.
But it's just a perfect way to ramp up a guy like that, as well as anyone else that you supplemented your receiver room with.
For sure. On the topic of the receiver room, before we get into 24, you had one drop on the day coming out of A-Day, one receiver drop, okay? And your completion percentage wasn't bad. Peyton Thorne, 9 for 13. Brown, 5 for 12. That's less than half, obviously. Holden Griner, 7 for 10. Walker White, who they're really excited about, 5 for 13. He's a true freshman. And Coleman wasn't even your leading receiver as far as reception goes. It was Robert Lewis, 5 for 73. So if you're an Auburn fan, I think the one thing I'm looking in this going into the spring game going, I just want to see yards through the air.
Yep. And you mentioned it with absolutely. You mentioned Coleman being more than halfway towards your season average a year ago. Well, you combine him with the gentleman that you just mentioned, and you're there.
Yeah.
Two guys of the room that you're going to possess, and you're there. So I'm with you, man. Should be a big step. Hugh is so bright offensively. He can do it with really whatever his strengths are. It was obviously a tough year at times last year with a combination of things that we're talking about, but you got to love, I think, the direction you're going.
Absolutely. All right, before we get into 2024, I want to tell you about our friends over at Live Oaks Landscapes. Commercial and residential lawn maintenance, rental lawn maintenance. You got weed control and prevention, mosquito and gnat spraying and treatment, landscape design and installation, patio installation, fire pits, paver and flagstone patios, fireplaces, retaining walls, leaf removal, irrigation installation, commercial builds, all the stuff. And Paul Pruitt at Live Oaks Landscapes is your guy if you're in the Forsyth, Hall, or Dawson County area. Make sure you hit him up. That season is coming. How do I know? Pollen is in the air. I've been sneezing like nobody's business. If you have better things in your life to do than take care of your own lawn. Pay somebody to do it. Hit Paul Pruitt up at Live Oaks Landscapes, 678-591-9802. All right, appreciate Paul and Live Oaks Landscapes being a proud supporter of Pandemonium Reigns. So much. Let's get into this. Auburn 2024, as you so beautifully put, the first 4 games set up really, really well for Auburn. And not to mention, this schedule is so favorable for them. So favorable.
Yeah.
So you can make one heck of an argument that these guys are going to come out 4-0. With the only one in question being Arkansas. Alabama A&M, win. Hosting Cal. You went to Cal Berkeley last year, snuck out a 14-10 win. I imagine that you're only going to be better. Jaden Ott is going to pose problems for you, but one guy can't beat you. You shouldn't let one guy beat you anyway. So we're both going to say 2-0, I imagine. We're both going to say 3-0 New Mexico. This is where the conversation starts to get more interesting. Hosting Arkansas. I don't like the trajectory of Arkansas. I really like the trajectory of Auburn. Give me an Auburn win there, right?
Yeah, dude, I can't go. There's no way. That's Auburn's winning that game. I can't see Arkansas doing it.
Yes. You've all actually got a few toss-ups in Auburn's schedule. This next one is really close to being a toss-up for me, just because you don't really know yet and what you're going to get in Jackson Arnold. And it's in Jordan Hare, right? The Voodoo Magic. Listen, Oklahoma, the Sooners are coming to Jordan Hare, right? This is going to be one of Oklahoma's, if it's not their very first SEC game, it's going to be one of the first. You imagine, your true SEC homers are going to love this, having Oklahoma in their venue. And like, let me you come from the Big 12. Jordan Hare's going to be on fire. I don't think it's going to be good enough, though. I think Venables year 2, Hugh Freeze year 2. I think Oklahoma just started out on a little bit more of a solid ground. I think that roster is deeper than most people give them credit for. And you know what? Here's something that we haven't mentioned as well. The portal's going to open again on the 15th next week. So this could totally turn upside
Tax
down.
day.
Yeah. In this moment in time, right, fresh off of a spring game, I'm going to take Oklahoma to go into Auburn and get a win.
Yeah. And did you say Venables year 2? Because he's entering year 3 there, right?
You know what?
The
Life goes
letdown
so
year
fast.
1.
I have 2 small kids.
It
Stuff
does.
happens.
It does. Just making sure we're on the same page there, though. But I really, this is where I need a crystal ball or the season to go ahead and get here. Oklahoma's coming off of hosting Tennessee here. That's going to be an interesting game. Probably 2,000 yards of offense that day, regardless of how well the defenses play, in my mind. And I'm with you. Jackson Arnold is the ultimate variable because they knew what they were getting, and I think Dylan Gabriel continued to take his game to higher levels. Is all he did.
Yeah.
Last year, he got better as he went after, I'm going to say, an injury-riddled 2021. I know he's a smaller guy.
Correct.
As of today, and look, I'm going to give this disclaimer once. Don't, when week 4, whenever it gets here in the week 5 regular season, and I say, oh, yeah, give me Auburn, or things change. Don't come at me, bro. I'm giving this disclaimer one time. As of early April, coming off of spring practice, I'm also going Oklahoma. I just like the roster makeup. I like year 3 versus year 2. I like the massive step that Oklahoma took last year versus what Auburn still has to kind of do.
Agreed.
Still the biggest job. It's the biggest job that Hughes had. I mean, I think he's up for the task. We're sitting here talking about it. I love the trajectory, but This is the biggest job that Hughes had, and there are some things to prove. So with those things to prove, with where the teams stand, give me the Sooners as of today.
Yeah, agreed. And just for clarity, this is Oklahoma's second conference game, but their first true road conference game. And I just hope this is a 7:30 kickoff. Please.
I need it. I need that so bad.
Please. All right, after that, they're going to travel to Athens, and we're both going to say that this is a loss. But my question is to you, do they do this house money thing where they just, hey, let it rip? We got nothing to lose, everything to win. Is that the approach?
Man, I hope so. Don't look. You're up or you're down less than a touchdown sometime in the fourth quarter in the analytical part of the field where it's, do I punt? Do I go for it? Go for it. You can dial up the play, throw in the house money out there. This fan base, this Auburn fan base should appreciate that like no other almost. I mean, they love that crap. The voodoo, the magic, the risk-taking. Now, if Auburn is able to be in that type of game 2 years in a row, maybe more importantly at Georgia, I will be blown away. I mean, just blown away. One of the bigger shocks of last year's regular season was how well they played Georgia, how close they played that game. Absolutely. And obviously there was some Jordan Hare magic going on, yada, yada. But, yeah, I mean, I say this a lot. You could give me Georgia minus 15.5 right now. I'm betting that pretty comfortably. Yeah. I love their stability, and I hate, because I don't like the program, obviously, but I hate the fire that they're going to play with, getting left out of the playoff, undefeated regular season, losing to Alabama. They're going to have some skeletons to kill again I think the way they're going to play down in Athens. So give me the Dogs, probably big.
I mean, yeah, Georgia's going to be your national champion favorite, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I'm putting money on it.
Absolutely.
This time of year, I'm going Georgia. I do believe it was the Auburn Georgia game last year where people started to take notice of Peyton's running ability. If I remember
definitely.
right,
definitely.
That's no longer a mystery. Georgia knows about this now, so that's a loss. At Mizzou, I have a totally different perspective on Mizzou than I've had in the past week, and I think they're going to be really good. As much as I hate to say it, I think they're going to be really good. I don't want to. We will do an episode on Missouri, but with that said, definitely. I don't like the idea of Auburn going up to Missouri and snatching out a win. If this was at home, I might feel differently. I'm going to take Missouri though.
Okay, I'm going toss up here, but I'm leaning Auburn because you have the hot start of 4-0. A little bit of a toss. I'm saying a little bit of a toss up with Oklahoma, but I'm taking them right now. But I'm leaning Missouri here because Drinkwitz, another guy in the biggest job that he's had so far. We're not going to go too far down the road, but replacing Schrader, who I know was not Cody Schrader coming into the program, he made his name at Missouri. They're having to do that again. They do have their quarterback cooked. They've got Luther Burden. We know that, but I'm leaning on Auburn here because I trust them in situations to muddy games up like this if they're dialed in with the roster jump that we're going to see from them. But when I say Auburn, I'm not like 90-10 Auburn. I'm more like 65-35 or 60-40 leaning Auburn. Won't be surprised. I can't wait to see how the teams play out. But I feel like I need Missouri to once again kind of show me something, show me that you can continue it with the guys that you're losing. They're losing some very important defenders and their DC. So I'm going to lean Auburn here today, saying that they've still only got the 2 losses of Oklahoma and Georgia.
I think that's fair. Again, this is a way too early prediction on this. I mean,
yeah,
spring games are no indicator, and we'll know more, maybe after the Cal game or after the Arkansas game. Might even know after the Alabama A&M game, or the New Mexico game where, maybe Peyton Thorne throws for 415 yards. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
This is about to end their rough 3-game stretch right in the middle of the season where it goes at Georgia, at Missouri, and now at Kentucky. I'm going to take Auburn here to pull this out just because, I mean, what do we know about Brock Vandagriff? We know that he couldn't win the job in Georgia, which that tall task. I'm not dismissing that. What do we know about him? Too much uncertainty right now. You got to like who he's throwing to. No. Barry Brown still there. Brain fart.
Barry Brown still there.
Still there. Okay, there you go.
Barry Brown is still there. They did lose the Virginia Tech transfer finally, who's also, I think, last name Brown. Can't remember his first name now. The Virginia Tech transfer. Obviously, they tried to build a pipeline there at receiver. Yeah, once again, leaning Auburn, leaning a little heavier Auburn here than I am against Missouri, probably more like 75 or 70% in their favor. My questions are, if you have that bad of an offense that we talked about earlier with Devin Leary, who many, many programs wanted, what are you going to do with a guy like Brock Vandagriff that we don't know about, who couldn't win the job with better weapons still than they're going to have at Kentucky? Things just don't change for me that much until I see Mark Stoops say, yeah, this process ain't working. We got to change it up. And again, part of it's Hugh Freeze over Mark Stoops. Part of it's just trajectory and kind of stuck in the mud feeling there in Lexington. I'm going to say they're still only at 2 losses this point in the season.
Kentucky is a really interesting topic because for a moment in time, Mark Stoops was the head coach at Texas A&M until he wasn't.
Yes, he was. It was, man. They Shiano'd that thing.
Yeah, I was going to say I've had longer visits to the bathroom longer than Stoops was the head coach for the Aggies.
Absolutely.
So regarding Kentucky, how did Stoops overcome that? Is it in the rearview mirror? They've got talent. They've got dudes. They've gone as Ray Davis. They have that talented cornerback, Hairston, something Hairston.
I think that's it.
I have no issues in not knowing the names of Kentucky players. I feel no sympathy. So, at that point, with a year and a half into the Freeze era, I got to imagine that I'm gonna feel pretty confident about the trajectory and the speed of this trajectory and whatnot at this point. I think that they're gonna fight against Georgia and Missouri, even those are losses, but I like for them to win this one. So they get through that rough stretch there, and then it's downhill again. Hosting Vanderbilt, can we just agree on this? It's a win.
We're doing it.
Hosting ULM, can we agree on this as a win?
Absolutely.
And then we get to them hosting Texas A&M, which what I believe is the truest of their toss-ups. I've got A&M here like 51-49, not a final score, like 51, like how much I favor them.
No,
like it's not much.
I'm laughing. I'm
like
laughing because I'm with you. Like
lean. That's it.
Yeah, like I might even get into the decimals of the 50%, like 50.0001. No,
Yeah.
What do we know about Texas A&M, man? Yet again, they did get hit by the portal, but a very, very solid roster that Jimbo just couldn't do it with, or whatever the problem was there.
Yeah.
Seemed like there were many problems. Always quarterback. Which quarterback is it? Do we have one on the roster? Is he healthy? Right. Last year, the answer was no. We just don't know much. Auburn does have the benefit of at home, so that's really where my favor of Auburn here comes in. So, I'm with you. I think I'm leaning Auburn today. Can't wait to see where we're at in this point of the season because things are really, really shaped up with the 11th game of the season here. At this point, we've got Auburn 9-2.
No, I'm a 51% lean to the Aggies.
That's yeah. Okay, well I'm actually leaning Auburn here. Let me clarify that. I'm leaning Auburn. Just
I won't be
edging them out.
Who's Texas A&M going to be?
Oh, that's totally what I'm trying
they
to find
lost some
out.
big names, but it was still a loaded pantry. Recruiting has not been an issue for them. So, anyway,
loaded pantry with a guy that doesn't need the sturdiest of pantries to get the job done in Elko, who, again, I keep saying this, but by far the biggest job that he's going to have had at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. But a guy that you make me a bit of a believer when you do things at Duke. I'm just going to leave that there. I like the guy. We'll see what he can do out there. I think it'll be really interesting if he can bring another really successful program. I mean, top tier level success potentially to the state of Texas.
The question surrounding Elko is going to be, can he do it without an elite quarterback like a Riley Leonard? And we everybody knows what they think about Riley Leonard because he ended up at Notre Dame following Sam Hartman. So take with that what you will. Yep. Can Elko do it with, oh my gosh, who are the Max Johnson's in Carolina? Why? I don't know who's there.
Is Wigman still there? Yeah, dude. I don't either. I mean,
every time I hear Wigman, I think about the Weigel's gas stations in Knoxville. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, they're going to close it out. Kalen DeBoer, Tuscaloosa. This is going to be a loss for me just because of the roster gap, I believe, and it's in Tuscaloosa, but it's still the Iron Bowl. All right, you have to like the advantage in the head coach Freeze over DeBoer, and I really just mean that in the time that they've been there. I think DeBoer's a winner. I think it's a really good hire for Bama. I really do. I'm gonna lean Bama here just for one. I mean, seriously, what do we know about Bama for the first time in over a decade and a half? What do we know? There's so much uncertainty. It's in Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer is a winner. It's still like A&M. It's still a loaded pantry. So I think it's a little silly to take Auburn in this situation. And again, week 14, rivalry week is a long way from here.
It sure enough is. I mean, we talking about turkey and dressing at this point of the year, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm with you. I like that. I'm taking Alabama here. I'm doing that. I think the only thing that came to my mind is like with DeBoer, because obviously I think he's a great coach as well. I think he could be an absolute unit there as well. What if he's Brian Harsin? What if he's that bad of a cultural fit? I don't think Alabama makes that mistake. I think Auburn is a great case study for anyone hiring someone outside of not, and I don't mean outside. I mean complete opposite of your pocket of the United States. They're a case study in that. They're a lesson to really vet, to really dig in deep when you're doing those things. But yeah, man, I'm taking Alabama here just because maybe just because I feel like the way that DeBoer is going to use Milroe in games like this is going to be disgusting. And I don't think it's going to be Michael Penix, but I think it's going to be disgusting. The roster's still really good. They're clearly gearing up to play a even faster brand of football, I think, with some of the personnel body compositions that we're seeing just come out of spring. But, man, there's no way today I can say Auburn wins this game at Alabama.
Agreed. Agreed. The only way I see this at this moment in time is DeBoer makes an announcement right now. He's trying to make Michael Penix 2.0 with Jalen Milroe, and I just don't think he's
Yeah.
going to do that. I think he's way smarter than that. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, so I've got him at 7-5.
Yep.
You have them. That's going to be 8-4, right?
8-4, 9-3, depending on how bad off I am on Missouri, Kentucky, whatever. Texas A&M, there it is.
I got their ceiling. If everything goes right for these guys. I heard one of the guys from SEC Uninterrupted, or he's the guy who used to do the Spurs Up show, then got hired by this SEC Unfiltered. Anyway, he does podcasting for them. He's got a ceiling for them at 10-2. I think that's a stretch.
Yeah.
Everything would have to go right. I'm going to say 9-3 is a comfortable ceiling.
Yeah.
Assuming you win your toss-ups, you're looking at, winning Mizzou and Kentucky and A&M with probably losses to OU, Bama, and Georgia. And that OU win, I just don't know about that, man. I really don't. Too much.
And really to have to win, Oklahoma, also Texas A&M. Oh yeah, Missouri and Kentucky back to back on the road. That's where it gets just to be a bit too much to ask for me.
Yeah.
They could do it if that receiver room is, in fact, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf in there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I don't know. I don't know yet. Peyton Thorne can play some good ball, but can he even be what Hugh got out of his quarterbacks at Ole Miss? Don't know that yet. Love the upside of their run game. We didn't actually spend too much time on it, probably because it should be among the best, at least personnel-wise, in the conference. When you look especially at what some schools lost, like Ole Miss, what Alabama lost, things like that. Obviously, some great additions were made. Obviously, breakout players will happen, but that's going to be a really good unit. They're going to be a fascinating team to see how they respond to year one last year.
For sure. And Auburn still ran well when everybody knew they couldn't put the ball in the air. So I think that says something. So I've got their floor at 5-7. If things just go south, I still think there's a solid 5 wins. Even if you have an injury to a Peyton Thorne or a Cameron Coleman, you're going to be Alabama, A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Vanderbilt, and ULM. You should still win.
I'm going to go 6-6 for their floor. That's primarily how bad I think Arkansas could be. What they got to do down there.
That's fair. I think that's extremely fair. Well, like I said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'm here for it. War Eagle, do the thing, upset the world. Hey, go 12-0. Do the thing. I'm for it. I'm for it.
I'm here for it.
I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Paul Pruitt, Live Oaks Landscape. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. Rate this episode. Our Clemson episode did really well. If you have not checked that out, please go and do that, because Cade Klubnik said things that he probably should not have said. But nonetheless, thank you again so much for hanging out with us and supporting us. We do this for free, so the least that you can do is hit the like and subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, please do us a favor and help us out. We don't do as well on YouTube as we do our podcast platform, so please just hit subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. I'm Dan. He's Mike. God bless. Go Vols.
GBO.
Pandemonium Reigns.